this is not normal. Or they tell them like, oh, this is just a normal part of aging. And so we're sold the lie that these things we're feeling are normal when that's not true. Common, yes, but not normal. And we don't have to. And I think that's what like really fuels me is to let women know like you don't have to live with these. Like this doesn't have to be your reality.
Welcome to the Life Coaching for Mompreneurs podcast, where you will learn simple solutions to win at work without losing at home. Hi, my name is Martine Williams, and I am your host and CEO, your Chief Encouragement Officer. And this podcast is your one-stop shop to creating a burnout-proof life and business by elevating your clarity, confidence, and courage. Friends, it's time to say goodbye to being the yes girl, to procrastinating on your goals and living in overwhelm. And it's time to say hello to creating healthy boundaries, healthy mindsets, and healthy habits so that you can achieve work-life harmony. Your next breakthrough starts here. This is the Life Coaching for Mompreneurs podcast. Let's do this. Have you been experiencing chronic fatigue, maybe just feeling tired even though you know you got 8-9 hours sleep, brain fog? You could be experiencing a mineral deficiency. You could be experiencing mineral imbalance. What is that? What are the minerals that we need to be looking at when it comes to some of these symptoms that we may be having? And how, like, what's the process to figure that out, kind of get to the root cause so we can actually start feeling better? So you're going to learn all of that and more on today's podcast with my turquoise talk guest, Hope Pedraza. She is an amazing functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and she is the founder of Imbalance, which is a Pilates-based fitness franchise, and the host of the Hopeful and Wholesome podcast. She also is a human design guide. She's an NLP practitioner, hypnotherapist, and she really helps female entrepreneurs and leaders leverage their holistic well-being as their number one asset, optimizing their energy and wellness with functional labs. Now, you know, I'm all about saying protecting like you are your greatest asset. And so today we kind of dive into a topic we haven't really talked about here on the podcast. Like I didn't even know mineral balancing was a thing. I've heard about hormone balance. I've heard about some other things, but never really heard of the mineral thing. So anyway, I'm excited for you to meet her. I can't wait for you to listen to this interview and grab your earbuds, grab your favorite beverage, and let's do this. Hey friends, welcome back to the show. I'm excited today. We have a turquoise talk guest, Hope. And Hope, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and talk with us about a topic that I think many people are interested in, but they just don't know where to start. So before we dive into some of that, could you just tell us a little bit about you, your family, and how you got into the work that you're doing today?
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to share all the goodness here today. So I am a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, which I know is a mouthful, but essentially means that I use functional labs to help people get to the root cause of chronic symptoms. And the work that I do is very holistic. I know we hear the word holistic, and I always hesitate using that word because it feels a little fluffy and vague and kind of like whatever. But in the holistic, in the sense that I am putting together the physical, the mental, emotional, and spiritual pieces, because I'm also a human design guide. I use NLP and hypnosis and energy work. And so I'm putting all of the pieces together to really help people get to the root cause of whatever chronic symptoms that they're dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is a mouthful. So thank you for taking the time to explain that. And so tell me, what made you want to get into what you're doing today? Like, what was your passion or your drive? Because I think this time of year, you know, people are maybe looking into starting a new business or changing careers, and they may have a little tug in their heart or something that they know they're meant for more or want to do more. And so I always just love hearing kind of your, like, why you're so passionate about what you do today.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that question. So I feel like the story goes all the way back. So my background is in dance, and I danced for 20 plus years of my life. And that led me into Pilates, which led me into I have a brick and mortar Pilates and fitness studio, wellness studio, as well as my online business. Okay. And so with my brick and mortar business, I wanted to create, again, going back to that word holistic, like this holistic experience for people where women, I mean, we have men too, but it's mostly women that are coming into
Yeah.
the studio. They were coming in and they could get everything they wanted in one place, including, nutrition and really like all the things to be well, like for their
Right.
well-being. So I started with just basic nutrition coaching as a nutrition coach, and then recognized that the conversations I was having with women were required deeper work than just talking about calories and macros. Like
Hmm.
these are women dealing with like hormonal issues and thyroid issues and potentially autoimmune things. Like these are like
Hmm.
deeper things going on.
Yeah.
And so that really led me down the path of doing functional as a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. Is like really being able to dive deeper, like being able to do the functional labs and look at like the deeper root causes at play. And then as I evolved as a human, my practice just kind of evolved too to tie in all of these other like mental, emotional, and spiritual pieces, and also recognizing with the women I was working with that yes, they're dealing with headaches or terrible periods or PCOS or endometriosis or whatever. But then there's also these emotional, energetic components of this at a root cause. And there's, energetic patterns that are causing the PCOS or
Hmm.
hormonal things going on. So just putting all of those pieces together.
Yeah. And there are so many pieces. And I think we are definitely in an age of where knowledge is at our fingertips, and
Hmm.
there's so much information out there. And I'm thankful that the conversations are more frequent and more open. And there's more people like you that are taking more of that, again, for lack of a better word, holistic approach, because the conversation need to be had, right? Like most
Hmm.
of us, especially women, especially moms, entrepreneurs, we're ambitious, we're driven, we are trying to, show up well in all of the areas of our life. And these symptoms start showing up. And the people that I work with, I find, I don't know if you find the same thing, is just slowing down long enough
Mm.
to really like dig into, okay, what's happening here? Because it's
Hmm.
usually not just one thing.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great point. And I think that's kind of where, like, yes, to your point, we have all this information at our
Hmm.
fingertips, but it's also very overwhelming
It
because you're like,
is.
I've got
Hmm.
28 things going wrong in my body and I don't even know where to start. Like there's just too much out there. So I think it can be overwhelming and daunting. And also to your point of like just taking the time to like address it. I think that's the
Hmm.
other piece. And I mean, I've been guilty of that too. Like I
Yep.
was in full on out adrenal burn. Like my adrenals were like in the toilet. Like I did
Hmm.
labs myself and I'm like, oh, like that's bad. Like that's really bad. And recognize like, oh, now it's all adding up. Well, I've been getting sick all the time and I was getting injured all the time. And you start to put the pieces together. But it is taking the time to like, okay, I need to do because the other thing, as high performing women, we
Hmm.
also don't want to waste time. So
Yeah.
it's like I don't want to waste time doing, and that's another reason why I love doing what I do is because I save my clients time. Like instead of spinning their wheels and doing all the trial and
Hmm.
error, like no, let's do the lab, see exactly what's going on, and then
Hmm.
we put all these other pieces together, so you don't have to wonder or try to spinning your wheels going to different doctors or
Yeah.
whatever to try to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Because I find that, once a woman has like made up her mind, decided, okay, I'm going to start investigating this, it's like the door is just kind of cracked, right?
Totally.
And if she goes in and she gets overwhelmed from all of it, or she feels like she's not listened to, or they don't understand her problem, then it's just like she doesn't return back to it. She's like, well, now
Hmm.
I'm just going to figure it out on my own, or I'm just going to suffer with all of these symptoms
Hmm.
that I have. And it's almost like it's become, I just posted about this on Instagram yesterday. Like it's so common, the symptoms that I'm seeing with the clients that I work with, but it's not normal, right? But I think
Yeah.
they're just
Yeah.
believing that, well, this is just the way life is supposed to be.
Yes.
I'm supposed to just suffer through this
Right. Right.
instead of stopping to get the help. And listen, like you, I've had some of those same mindsets. So I'm not judging anyone, but it's
Yes.
just fascinating to watch how that works and how,
Yes.
when I'm coaching the women or I'm kind of guiding direct them, like I do want them to be with someone that I know is just going to listen when it
Right.
comes to this kind of stuff. And that they're going to feel seen and heard and
Mhm.
actually like give me the Cliff Notes version. I'm that
Right.
person. Like give me the Cliff
Yes.
Notes. I don't need to understand all of the science, and
Yeah.
I'm a science person, but I don't need to understand everything about the science, but
Yes.
just give me the Cliff Notes
Yes.
version.
Yes. Give me a little bit of the why and then tell me what to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I agree. And I think the problem is we've been sold the lie that this is
Mm-hmm.
normal, but normal and
Mm-hmm.
common, like you said, these are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we could go down this rabbit hole all day, but like the
Yep.
medical gaslighting thing is such a real thing. And I can tell you without like making overgeneralization. 90% of the women I've worked with have been a victim of medical gaslighting, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, you're just getting older. It's just your hormones, or it's you just have anxiety. And they're given where it's like, no, like this is not normal.
Mm-hmm.
Or they tell them like, oh, this is just a normal part of aging. And so we're sold the lie
Yeah.
that these things we're feeling are normal when
Mm-hmm.
that's not true. Common, yes, but not normal. And we don't
Mm-hmm.
have to. And I think that's what like really fuels me is to let women know like you don't have to live with these. Like
Yeah.
this doesn't
Yeah.
have to be your reality.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're not crazy for
Yes,
feeling the things that
totally.
you're feeling, because if you are like in your own head and in your own world, you're like, I'm the only one that's suffering with this. I'm like, no, it's so
Mm-mm,
common.
mm-mm.
You're not alone in this. So tell us a little bit about, I know some of the work you do is mineral balancing. So tell
Mhm.
me, what does that mean and what is that process?
Yeah. So this is the minerals I can geek out on, nerd out all day because I just love it so much. And what's one of my foundational labs that I do the mineral testing. But I think the piece for me that makes it so crucial, and this is something that most people, I would dare say, most people aren't addressing. Minerals are, and you've probably heard this from before in like probably your basic biology class, but minerals are
Mhm.
considered spark plugs in the body, meaning that every reaction in the body minerals are either they're playing some role in it as a cofactor, as starting the reaction. So minerals are needed for literally everything that's going on in the body. And so, women come to me and the most common thing is they're telling me like my hormones are jacked up, like how me my
Right.
hormones. But we never start with the hormones. Hormones are just little chemical messengers telling us that something is going wrong, but it's never the root cause.
Mhm.
If you really want to start at a foundational level of the root cause of why things are happening in the body physically, minerals are where you start. It starts with the mineral balance. And I think a lot of people don't understand this because it's just not something that's addressed very often, like
Mhm.
specifically look at minerals. So one of the foundational labs that I run on my clients is a hair tissue mineral analysis. And you're literally sending in some of your hair and it's looking at minerals at this deep cellular level. And I think that's where a lot of the data gets missed when we're looking, because of course you can go to a doctor and get a blood lab,
Mhm.
right? People do that all the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
But it's going
Yeah.
to give you a different picture of what's going on with your minerals than looking at it through a tissue, cellular level. It's what's going
Okay.
on in the cells. So I'm getting a more accurate look at what's going on in your cells. Because the other thing is, not to get too sciencey here, but a lot of the
Mhm.
minerals in your body are intracellular, meaning they're supposed to be in your cells. So if we're looking at a blood lab, it's really not telling you what's happening in your
Yeah.
cells. Like it's not an
Right.
accurate picture.
Okay.
So we look at the HTMA and it can see like what's going on at a cellular level and then also what's going on chronically. Because as you know, a blood lab is just like a blip in time. It's like what's going on right now in your
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
looking at it with the tissue is going to give you a more like a better look at what's going on chronically in your body. So
Okay.
it's one of my favorite labs to look at and analyze because we can get so much data from it, like your thyroid, your hormones, your gut, your liver, your blood sugar regulation, your nervous system, your immune system. So there's so many pieces we can pull just from looking at that one lab.
That's amazing. And yes, it just, again, like things we just don't know. We don't talk about things that,
Yeah.
we just need so much more education on, but
Yeah.
also it's like someone like you who can just break it down for us to understand. So if they are imbalanced, how do we know that we're not in, like, what are some of the symptoms, the
Yeah.
signs that you're seeing most common?
Yeah, and this is the other part that always gets because there's so many symptoms that are symptoms of like 58 other things. So it's
Yeah.
hard to know
Yeah.
exactly what to pin. And I think too, that's where conventional medicine can sometimes fail us because they just kind of put a blanket like
Mm-hmm.
diagnosis on it when it's like, well, that's not really what it is. So some symptoms that your minerals are out of balance. Chronic fatigue is probably the most common. I think
Okay.
chronic fatigue is probably one of the most common symptoms that my clients have. I mean, they have a laundry list of symptoms, but the chronic fatigue or just feeling tired, like no matter how much
Mm-hmm.
sleep you get, no matter how much caffeine I get, like that's a big one. Brain
Yeah.
fog is another big one. I think brain fog, and that's probably the second most common. Just, having trouble concentrating, having trouble finding clarity and decision making, the brain fog. Trouble sleeping or like disturbances while you sleep is another really common one. It could be having trouble falling asleep, having trouble staying asleep, or you wake up and you feel like you didn't get any sleep. Like I wake up and I still feel tired. That one's really common. Digestive issues, chronic bloating, constipation, diarrhea, combination of all of those, like
Okay.
that's mineral imbalances. And then like immune issues or just an increased sensitivity to stress. Like you feel like little things just set your body off. That's a really
Mm-hmm.
good indication there's some mineral imbalances going on.
Yeah. So as I'm hearing you talk about these, like you said, there's so many other things that could be causing some of this
Yep,
too. So if someone is experiencing these symptoms, do you still feel like the best place to start is with the minerals? If we truly
totally.
understand how the minerals are working in the body.
Yep, totally.
Okay.
Because the thing is, and and there's, there's steps that I take, we're looking at minerals, but the thing is, if you jump straight to your hormones, you're not fixing it at the source. So yeah, you can take, supplements for it to help hormones or whatever you drink for your hormones, but you're still not getting to the source. So I've had women come to me who've worked with either, other practitioners or physicians or whatever, and they've addressed the hormones with
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And sometimes it is through holistic means and more, alternative ways, but the symptoms always come back because I really didn't get to the root cause, which
Yeah.
it starts at that cellular level, what's going on in your cells with your minerals. And yeah, I would totally still start there.
Yeah. And like, this might be kind of a silly question, but what kind of minerals, like what are the minerals that people are
Yeah.
deficient in?
Yeah, no, not a silly question at all. And I think that's the other thing too, is this is a great point to make. Like sometimes we just don't know. Like, you don't know what you don't know. So we don't even know what
Right.
we're looking
Yeah.
for, right?
Right. Right.
So the big four, and these are considered macro minerals because we use the most of these and we need the most of these, is
Mm-hmm.
calcium, potassium, sodium, and magnesium, right? And these are all very common, right? They're in the electrolyte
Mm-hmm.
stuff we drink, and we hear about these. But those are the big four, and those are the ones that we're really going to put a high focus on. But then there's other little macro or micro minerals, micronutrients that we'll also look at. Things like selenium, it's helpful for your
Mm-hmm.
thyroid. Things like iodine, also helpful for your thyroid. Things like chromium, which helps with blood sugar regulation. Zinc, which is really important for hormone production, hormone metabolism, and your immune system. All of those are going to, and there's a couple dozen that we look at on the lab, but those are kind of the heavy hitters that we're going to look at because they affect so many different functions in the body.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, we know, the listeners are mostly mom and they're entrepreneurs, and, being deficient in these core minerals and having these symptoms. I mean, it doesn't produce a high opportunity for success, because if you're tired all the time and you're not sleeping well, I mean, I hear that all the time. I mean,
Mhm.
thankfully, I don't know if it's my minerals or if it's just I'm a good sleeper, but I do protect my sleep pretty fiercely. Like
That's
that's the
good.
one thing that I know, if I don't get a good night's sleep, like it just messes up the rest of the day for
Yep.
me. So
Yep.
I think that we go to all of these other, as an entrepreneur and as a life learner, I'm going to like how to grow the business with all of these business tactics and marketing and all of these things. But if you are not healthy, and I say this all the time, your business is only as healthy as you are,
100%.
right? And your marriage is only healthy as you are, and your parenting, all of those things
Yep.
start with you. So if someone's listening today and they're trying to grow their business and they're dealing with some of these symptoms, but they have that thought that you said earlier, like, I don't have time. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't have time to deal with this. I'll get to that when.
Mm-hmm.
One day,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the one day strategy I talk about here all the time. The one day strategy doesn't
Yes.
work because the one day's never coming. So, what would you say to someone who's listening and
Yes.
they're really kind of suffering with some of these things?
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with that. And that's something I say all the time too, is the health of your business is only as healthy
Mm-hmm.
as you are in your body. I say that all the time. And I think that, it sounds a little cliche to say, but eventually you're going to wait till it's too late. And instead of
Mm-hmm.
five things going wrong in your body, you have 85 things going wrong in your body. And it's that much more of a challenge. Not saying it's impossible to undo and heal, but it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be that much more effort and work for your body to get back to homeostasis, like to get back to that balanced
Mm-hmm.
state. And so I mean, I've been there too. That was me too. Again, when by the
Mm-hmm.
time I had checked my, did labs on myself, my adrenals were like barely surviving. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much life my adrenals would have had left if I wouldn't have dressed them when I did. And I could have saved myself a lot of like being sick and frustration and,
Mm-hmm.
all the things. So I think it's just an important like value to uphold as an entrepreneur that your health
Mhm.
should be above everything else. I mean, really, like to what you
Yeah.
were saying, your relationships, your parenting, your all of it. It's relying on this vessel we have to do the thing, which is our body. We
Yeah.
have one of them. We got one body. Like we got one
Yeah.
shot at this. So I think if that's what you're putting on the back burner, everything else in your life is gonna struggle because of that.
Hmm.
And I know that's a hard one for people. It can be a hard concept to grasp, especially when, we want to succeed and we're high performers, we want to do the thing, you want to create, and we have all these like
Hmm.
the entrepreneurial juices are flowing, but eventually your entrepreneurial juices are going to run out if your body is on the ground and your health is failing and you've got no more creative juices flowing because now your brain fog and all of those other
Yeah.
things have kind of taken over. So I think it's just this perspective shift on like priorities, and,
Yeah.
and what to
Hmm.
prioritize. And it's not an overnight thing. I think I've helped a lot of clients with that and that perspective shift that a lot of times it's not an overnight thing. And especially if you're a woman who has been in the pattern of overgiving and
Hmm.
overdoing and literally sacrificing yourself for the sake of everyone else in your life. Like
Yeah.
you've been in that pattern for a long time. It's like a parenting thing on yourself that has to happen.
It is.
So,
It
yeah,
is. Yeah. When you were talking earlier about how holistic has just kind of become white noise, like self care also is kind of a word
totally.
that's just like become white noise. And so I don't really say it and use self care. Be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. It's a bubble bath. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, no, like self care is actually being like parenting yourself. Part
Mm-hmm.
of self-care is deciding that no, I deserve the same love and attention that I'm giving everyone else.
Exactly.
And I deserve to be on my own plate. And it is a mindset shift, which is why a lot of the work I do with my clients starts there, because I can give you all the skill sets and all the things to do to grow your business. But if your mind and your beliefs are not in the right place for where you want to go, like it's a huge wall that goes up and it just stunts that
Absolutely.
growth.
Yes.
So I know someone's listening and they're just curious, like, what is the process? Like, I know you mentioned the hair and the urine and all that, but like, can you walk us through like, are there 5 steps to doing this? Are there 10 steps? Like, how
Mm-hmm.
long before they'll see results? Because you know us, we want like instant
We want to know.
gratification.
We want to
How
know.
long is it
Yes.
going to take for me to stop, waking up at 3 a.m. In the middle of
Yes.
the night or having
Yes.
the brain fog? Like, I want to be able
Right.
to be clear minded. So kind of give us that process. Hey, friend, can I give you permission today? Like, for real, your own permission slip. Permission to get clear, to cut out the noise, mostly the noise that is going on around in your own mind, in your own head. It's just swirling. And you're asking yourself questions like, why am I stuck? Why am I frustrated? Why am I not making progress on my goals? I want to invite you to a free clarity call with me where we're going to dive in and we're going to identify what are the 3 main issues that are keeping you stuck. Number 2, what are the mindsets around those issues that are actually keeping you from solving for those issues? It's not our skill sets, it's our mindsets that keep us stuck and hold us back. And then number 3, identifying what are your next steps. We all have a next step and we have 100% responsibility for those next steps. Your only next step right now is to go to the show notes and book your free clarity call so that we can work through this. I'm believing in you and I cannot wait to see you on our clarity call.
Yeah. Yeah. So typically about 5 steps when we're looking at mineral balancing. And so I have some clients who want to come do just the mineral balancing, and then I have some who want to do the whole shebang. So I have 3 foundational labs. And then the only lab I have is just as a standalone lab is the HTMA, just because the hair analysis, just because it does give so much data. But yeah, there's about 5 steps. So first, it's just assessing things. Like we want to
Okay.
see what is happening. I love working on the mindset, the energetic stuff, and the spiritual stuff, and all that. But like, let's look at on paper exactly what's
Mm-hmm.
going wrong in your body, so we don't have to guess. So just
Yep.
assessing what's happening is first, and then the next step would be diving into supporting your body's detoxification process. We're looking at detox and drainage pathways is like the sciencey where we're looking at things like your liver, your lymphatic system, your kidneys, your gallbladder, like all the organs that are involved in helping you be able to break things down and eliminate things, because that's first and foremost. And elimination meaning like pooping. Like, are you
Right.
pooping? Like we have to
Mm-hmm.
have these
Right.
conversations, because if you're not, then we
Mm-hmm.
already know you're recirculating toxins in your
Mm-hmm.
body. You're recirculating hormones, which is why your hormones are out of whack because you're not eliminating them. So we have to work on those pieces before diving into and the other things. Then we would dive into your minerals, like addressing exactly what is going on with your minerals. I work with a lab that creates custom mineral protocols to exactly what the HTMA says. Like it's
Mm.
exactly what you're deficient in, the cofactors and all the things. So you get like your customized protocol. This is exactly what your body needs, which is pretty cool. And
Yeah.
then we're also working on your gut and your digestion because if you're not absorbing any of the minerals that we're taking in your
Mm-hmm.
gut, then you're just kind of wasting a lot of money. Like you're peeing a lot of stuff out and you're not absorbing it. So working on the gut, working on digestion. We're going to do that kind of at the same time. And then we're looking at things. Now, this is kind of like the boring stuff people don't want to talk about, but looking at stress and lifestyle because these
Yeah.
things are important. And so
Yeah.
looking at, how do we regulate your nervous system, right? How do
Mhm.
we implement, maybe it's mindfulness practices or, whatever it is to help with your stress because
Mhm.
all of this is stress induced.
Yeah.
90% of disease that we're faced with is because of stress. So,
Yeah.
and we really want to talk about root cause. Like, we got to start there.
Yeah.
So that's a big piece of it is looking at lifestyle and stress management. How do we reduce stress? And that's why I love tying in all the other like energetic practices that I do. Like I love human design. And so tying
Mhm.
that piece in so people can really understand themselves at an energetic level. So we can kind of adjust their lifestyle and how they're, creating and being productive in their business according to their design. So there's just
Right.
more energetic flow with how they're doing things and being productive and creating and putting things out.
Yeah. Yeah. It is amazing to me how we just ignore the stress parts of our life. And as you were talking, I was sitting here thinking like, why does that continue to be? It's almost like, especially for women. I had a client yesterday I was talking to about this. Some emotions were coming up for her and some thoughts and beliefs. And I'm like, okay, the first thing I can tell is you're judging yourself for how you're
Mm,
feeling. And so it's like we don't want to address the stress because I think for some women they're afraid of how they're going to treat themselves in the process
mm,
of just I created this overcommitted life, and there's no one to fault. Yes, there's a personal responsibility. You created it, you can uncreate it too, right? So let's put the
mhm.
power there and uncreate it. But we saw this with the pandemic, all of the extremes that everyone went to for that. And I'm like, stress is going to kill more people than that virus ever will or
Totally.
did, right?
Totally.
But it's just like, okay, well, we're all just supposed to walk around stressed out all the
Right.
time. I mean, the women I work with are in burnout, majority of them.
Yeah.
They don't know they're in burnout, but
Hmm.
once we talk through it, they're like, oh,
Oh,
yeah, that's what it
yeah.
is. And so I would love to know from you, like, have you experienced burnout? You said your adrenals were, so I'm pretty sure, yes, that means you were burnt out. But how did it show up for you? Because I do think for some people, it's lack of inspiration, lack of
Yeah.
motivation. Some people, there are some real physical things that happen to them in their state
Yeah.
of burnout. So I always like to ask my guests if you experienced it, what did it feel like for you? And then what were some things you did to kind of course correct and get your way out of
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I think you're right that there's no telling how many women are walking around burned out and they just don't know. Like they don't
Mm-hmm.
know what the signs and symptoms are.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the signs for me were there and I was just ignoring them. So for me, like when I saw the labs, I'm like, oh my gosh, like
Can't
that
ignore
was,
it now, right?
yeah, exactly. It's there on paper. I've got physical proof like this is bad. But I was going back and putting the pieces together. I was recognizing like, yes, I was getting sick all the time. I was a runner at the time. I was like running marathons. I was getting injured all the time. And I'm like, oh, I'm just, I don't know. I made up some excuse why it was happening. Oh, I was burnt
Mm-hmm.
out and my body was just like, you know.
Right.
So I was getting injured all the time, I was getting sick all the time. I was just like the wired but tired is what I say a lot to my
Mm,
clients, where
yeah.
you're so tired, but your brain is just like, and you
Yep.
can't stop it. Like you can't stop
Mm-hmm.
it. I felt like all the time, just laying in bed and just looping. Your brain's just looping. You can't
Mm-hmm.
stop it. Like feeling like I couldn't, the clarity and the brain fog. And for me, I didn't really describe it as brain fog, but for me, it's like I couldn't, the clarity was just not there. Like I couldn't put ideas together very well. And if I did, it was just that my brain was just not, there's just like this kind of haze over what I was trying to do in my business. And then like hormonal things, definitely like recognizing that my periods were pretty painful for a
Mm-hmm.
while.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about it now and I'm like, man, because my period, I mean, they're like clockwork now. It's like I know
Yeah.
exactly when, like it's the same every month. And it's but thinking back, like it was kind of a mess.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then just energy feeling like I'm a someone who I've always been able to function on little sleep, which I don't know
Yeah.
if that's a good or a bad thing, but I can recognize that I definitely felt slumps in my energy. So just
Mm.
not having the energy to do the things. And I think you mentioned this too, but just kind of feeling kind of this like apathetic feeling where
Yeah.
it's like I kind of want to do this, but I'm kind of apathetic about it. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was also something that came up for me. So to your other question, what did I do? Well, for me, the labs is really what triggered it. It's like when I did the
Yeah.
labs myself is when I was going through my training for FDN, did the labs myself, and I'm like, well, now I got to do something about it.
Right. Yeah.
So I basically just, put myself through protocol and then it also for me, it was kind of in the thick of this like period of spiritual awakening I was having within myself. And I
Mhm.
think that was the other piece that really helped. And like I was when I was learning about human design, I was diving into my own human design and understanding like how my energy works and why I do
Yeah.
the things that I do. Like all of that played a part. I mean, it was again this holistic, we keep
Holistic
saying that, this
approach.
holistic
Yeah.
approach. Yeah.
Hmm.
And all of that played a part in the healing of understanding my energy, being able to make shifts and tweaks and how what I was doing in my business and how I was doing things in my business. Just all of it was just all played a part.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you for being honest and sharing that. Because I do think the more of us that are willing to be honest and
Yeah.
share, and be vulnerable that, hey, I had that too, the more women are willing to take off the mask and say, okay, I'm not okay.
Right.
Because
Right.
so many of us just hide behind because we're supposed to be strong or
Right.
we're supposed to just be able to push through. But going back to kind of your process that you take people through, like when are people seeing the results? Like how
Yeah.
long does someone need to wait or
Hmm.
what's like on average, you would say
Yeah.
if they start going through the process, you find out what they're deficient, they start taking the correct minerals and they're
Yeah.
doing the holistic approach too. Like what
Mhm.
have you seen?
Yeah. 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 Yeah, that's important. I'm glad you brought that back up because that is important. People want to know this. How long does it take? So, of course, it's going to differ depending on the person. Because I've
Hmm.
had women who it's like 1 month in and like everything is changing. I've had
Okay.
some women where it's months and months and months down the road. But I'd say typically within the first like 2 to 3 months, things start to shift. Your
Okay.
energy, your sleep. I don't work with very many men, but I have a few male clients, usually either like spouses or
Hmm.
brothers of clients that I've worked with. But I have his was like less than a month. He's like already down one belt loop. He's like, I had to get another belt and then I'm already sleeping. So sometimes it does happen quicker than others. But I would say within the first 2 or 3 months is when people really start to see small shifts. And I think that's the other thing too is this is why I love working with entrepreneurs and high
Hmm.
achieving women is because we're in the business for the long game. Like we know we're in
Yeah.
business for the long
Right.
game. And so
Yep.
they typically have the mindset going into something like this with their health. Like this is also the long game. Like
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
yes. And, typically culturally we're like want the quick fix and we want
Hmm.
the instant gratification. But I think the mindset of the entrepreneurial mindset makes us a little bit more resilient and like
Yeah.
staying with the long haul. And so, and I love that. I mean, I love working with people that are committed to it. Like, okay, or it's kind of because it's also not linear, right? Just like
Hmm.
life. So your
Yeah.
healing process
Yeah.
is never linear. So it's up and it's down, but it's still over the long run, it's still going up,
Yeah.
right? So it's
Yeah.
just having that expectation that it's not going to be linear and I'm in it for the long haul. And this is not like again with the cliches here, but there's not like a destination at the end. Like this is a constant thing that I'm going to work
Mm.
with my whole life. Like my well-being is something that I'm going to work on forever.
Yeah.
And if we have our priorities, right, like we were talking about priorities a second ago, and I'm going to prioritize my well-being because I know that's what's most important, then it's going to be
Hmm.
something that you're always,
Hmm.
you're intentionally working with
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. And so is the maintenance like once you start having the results, like is there a maintenance phase or
Yeah.
program or like
Yeah.
how does
Yeah.
that work after you go through all that?
I do. So the protocol, depending on the person, the protocol is typically between like 4 to 6 months to get through the whole
Hmm.
protocol that I have them in. The mineral protocol is just 3 months, but then there's other things we're doing. Like there's things we're doing before with, I talked about detox and drainage pathways. There's things we're doing after with like hormones and stuff. So when we get through the whole protocol, I do have a maintenance phase. And so basically it's just, and it there's a little bit of nuance to it depending on the person, but for the most part, it's just kind of my basic maintenance supplement protocol. So it's like getting a really good multivitamin.
Mm-hmm.
It's magnesium because most of us are deficient and none of us get enough. Omegas, omega 3s, and a good probiotic. And again, there's some nuance there, but those are really like the four maintenance pieces that I have for people just to maintain going forward. And then there's some resources for, mineral support after they finish their mineral protocol and stuff. But really, the maintenance part is, I think it's important because I think sometimes people think that, especially we're talking about like supplementation and stuff, like
Yeah.
you're going to have to take 5,000 supplements and take them for the rest of your
Yeah.
life. But that's not
Yeah.
even the point of supplements. Like yes, there's some supplements that are for like filling in the holes. Again, like I said, a good multivitamin, multimineral, it's filling in the gaps, right? Our
Yeah.
food system, just the way we grow our food, like there are holes in our diet. So it's just like
Mm-hmm.
insurance. We're going to take the multivitamin for insurance. But other than that, and the magnesium, other than that, like if you're taking 5,000 supplements a day, then we got problems because then we haven't really addressed whatever
Trust
the
it.
supplement's
Yeah.
supposed to be,
Yeah.
fixing or whatever. So that's kind of my motto on supplements. And so I like to be able to have those conversations with clients too. Like, yes, are there going to be times where you're taking more than that maintenance? Sure. Like, and, it's flu
Mm-hmm.
season. I really want to take something to help boost my immune system.
Yeah.
Or, you got a UTI and now I want to take
Yeah.
things to help, so there's times where you're going to have other supplements you're taking for support, or I did a liver detox and I want to take some liver support.
Right. Right.
But the maintenance part is important because it should be minimal for maintenance because you've built your body up enough where
Yeah.
it's like now your body can sustain itself. And I'm just going to kind of fill in the holes.
Yeah. Yeah. Two things that came up, just my husband and I both had some labs done, and of course it was blood work. So now I'm not questioning it, but it's just interesting what
Yeah.
you said about the blood work. So anyway, for him, and the doctor called him and brought it up, and I was like, that's so odd. His potassium was like super high. He doesn't eat bananas. Like, I'm just trying to figure out where in the world the
I'll tell you
potassium
why.
is coming
Go
from.
ahead. I'll tell you why. Do you want me to tell you?
Yes.
So potassium is one of those intracellular minerals that's supposed to be in your cells. So if it's high in a blood lab, it's a deficiency.
Okay.
So he should be eating more. And it's funny and weird that a lot of doctors don't know that because I've had clients come to me like, oh yeah, my doctor told me my potassium was high. I need to back off. But they said what you're saying, but I don't eat bananas. I don't eat. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's a deficiency. Like that's the problem. So yeah.
All right. So we don't have to avoid any potassium.
Yes.
We both do the element, the electrolyte, and it has potassium in it. And I was like, don't drink that anymore.
Yes.
And then for me, like, it was really interesting to see, like, over a 6 month, or probably it's been a year, like, even though I'm usually deficient in vitamin D, like you said, I think most women are highly deficient in vitamin D and magnesium. But even after taking the supplement, I'm still not where I need to be. And she was just like, you have low absorption rate probably, or we're going to be doing some more testing to figure out what's going on in the gut. Yes. So that's just so fascinating to me. I'm like, I've been taking all these supplements and I'm probably just peeing them all out.
Well, and that's the thing. I'm so glad you said that because I think that's really why I love doing the lab so much is because to your point, it's like, and I've had clients before too with that same scenario. Like I test my vitamin D and I'm taking, and they've even gotten on like the, prescription strength vitamin D and it's still not affecting their vitamin D levels. There's so much more at play there. And I'm glad your doctor mentioned about the gut because that'd be the first place I would say too. It's like, okay, well, let's look at the gut. And then also there's cofactors like you need magnesium and you need boron, you need vitamin K, you need all these things to help with vitamin D and getting it in the right place and absorption. So there's like other things at play, but that's why I love the labs. And I love, when women really take initiative on doing this work, because then, because I have worked with a lot of women who have guessed and not to scare people, but like I have women who they're trying to like piece things together and work with individual minerals, but then they're setting other things off because that's really not what they were deficient in. So like I said before, you don't know what you don't know, but doing work like this with someone who knows how to analyze it and look at it, like it really does make all the difference.
Yeah. So what she's saying to all of you that are listening, stop Googling stuff.
Dr. Google's only going to get you so far.
That's right. It's probably going to tell you your arm's getting ready to fall off if you don't do something.
And you're going to die tomorrow.
So go to a professional like Hope. So tell us where people can connect with you. I know they're so intrigued after this interview. So tell us what you're most excited about right now and how they can connect with you.
Yeah. So You can find me on Instagram. I'm at the Hope Pedraza. I'm most active there. I have my website is hopefulandwholesome.com, and I also have a podcast, Hopeful and Wholesome. There's so many resources there. So if anything, just go check out the podcast. And there's so many resources. And a lot of my episodes, I have little like worksheets and workbooks and stuff that to help along. So you can get all the learning and stuff there. And I have a resource I have for you, for your listeners, is an energy detox, which I'm also really excited. It's a holistic, again, with the word holistic, energy detox, but it's really kind of going through all the different areas I work with my clients. We're looking at physical energy, emotional, mental energy, and all the different, there's lots of practices and tools to use to help with all of that.
Okay.
So I'm excited about that. And another thing I'm excited about is a program that I'm starting at the beginning of next month. I don't know when this episode's coming out, and it's kind of this, I'm creating this hub of women who want to be able to ask questions and work through things. So it's just like, and that's something I give for my clients all the time. And I have clients who will work with me continually after they've done the work together, just having like Voxer coaching. I just want to be able to ask you questions when I have questions. Yeah. And it's valuable. Like somebody who knows things and you can ask questions. So I'm excited about that, and having, women just having access to that and being able to help heal themselves.
Yeah. Where can they get the resource? Is there a specific link? We'll put it in the show notes, but do you want to audibly say it?
Yes, it's a long link, so I'll give you the
okay.
Yes,
yeah, we'll just put it in the show notes then.
Yes,
okay,
and a little promo code so that your listeners can get it for free. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you. I can't wait to go get that. I know they'll be excited to grab that as well. So, if you could leave them with just one word of advice or one strong message for every entrepreneur, mompreneur that's listening today, what would you like to leave them with?
I think for all women, it's listen to your body. And I know, again, this is something like, the word self-care and holistic that can be like, I listen to my body. But I think a lot of times we think we listen to our bodies, but we really don't. And our bodies have everything they need to be able to heal themselves. But it's just a matter of us taking the time, like we said before, to listen to the signs and the signals that our body's giving us. And kind of back to the conversation we're having about the medical gaslighting thing. If your bodies are giving you signs and signals and it's telling you something's off, then something's off. So listening to your body and not letting anyone tell you that it's in your head or whatever. I think in this age that we're in right now, the best advice is to listen to your body. Like it's gonna tell you which way to go. It's gonna tell you which best decision to make. It's gonna tell you where in your body needs attention. But I think that can't be underestimated, just the value of listening to your body and trusting your body.
Yeah. And that's the second piece, is trusting it, trusting that you know something's not right, and being your best advocate, because no one's going to fight for you
totally
stronger than you'll fight for yourself. So I love that message. All right, Hope. Well, this was great. We could have talked for a whole nother hour, because I wanted to talk about energy and I wanted to talk about so many other things, but we know people's attention spans are about this long. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. And we'll put all the links for everyone listening to how you can connect with Hope. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Martine. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, friends. I'll catch you on the next episode. Well, that's a wrap, friends. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I really hope it met you right where you are and gave you some encouragement for your day. Could you do me the biggest favor and leave me a rating and review? Seriously, it's the best way for you to support the show. And while you're there, be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Thanks again. And until next time, I am believing in you always.